So in regards to the top 5 players in the NAL video I did a little bit ago, I looked back and I realized I was looking at the average. It looked a little bit weird, and this has now been corrected. For some reason, it was only averaging these three: the NAL Stage 2, SI 2021, and NAL Stage 1. It didn't do the Mexico Major. I mean, I started putting the formula in and like auto-filled for me, and I was assuming it was doing all 4, but it was only doing 3. So it definitely made some players look better or worse than they actually were. Like Bolo is now, down here when I don't remember where he was exactly. You can look back if you're curious, but he was several places up because he had, out of all the players on the list, he had I guess he had the worst performance at the Mexico Major. So he was most disproportionately made to look better on this list. Average 1.03, just barely above 1. So I had him in top 5, and also I was talking to a couple people in the comments from the last video, and they were saying they didn't think Bolo was top 5 at the moment either. And yeah, you could probably tell listening to the video I was super hesitant about it. So I here have it reordered and the average corrected. I don't know how I didn't notice that. I don't know. I thought the formula auto inputted correctly. But anyway, so here are the revised averages. DP Fire still down here, or whatever. I mean, I guess if you just take this one, he's actually the second best, but because he has nothing else to bring it down, so we're still not going to include him. Hot and Cold still number 1 though. Like the Mexico Major was definitely bringing his average down, but it's still the highest, like by a good margin. He still looks like the best player in NA. I'm going to keep him up there. Then we had J90 and Iconic, and I think I talked a good bit about how they both put up pretty impressive performances. Their stats weren't changed because neither of them were at the Mexico Major, but now these players here, several of them were above them. So J90 actually with the second highest average, and I'm not going to put either of them in the top 5 because we haven't seen them internationally at all. We didn't see them at SI or the Mexico Major. So one more really good, and I do sort of like to value for this video in particular, the NAL stats maybe a little bit more, because we are looking at the best players in NAL. So when they're actually playing against each other, like these stats, even though doing really well at international competition is impressive, if some of the players weren't there, it sort of skews things a little bit. And especially, like maybe if Disrupt were there, they would have done really good, but you can probably assume even if they did well, they wouldn't have done this well. Very unlikely. Like you see here, the only NJR is the only one with even a really high Mexico Major stat, and that's mostly off the back of that one incredible game, bringing it up. So yeah, so I'm not going to count them. I think they're close. They're probably both top 10 at the moment, but I don't think they're top 5. Grixer's going to have to stay in here. 2 incredible performances in NAL, and then just a Mexico Major poor performance, bringing it down, which is unfortunate, but still, you can't knock these 2 killer performances, and his average still remains this high, even with a 0.91 here. Rexon, I'm not going to include him just yet. He's probably like just outside, like 6th or 7th, but he had a killer NAL Stage 2, and his Mexico Major and his NAL are both above 1, but they're both just like a little bit above 1, anywhere 1 to 1.05. It's pretty good, but it's not like a killer performance. I mean, even up to like 1.1. I feel like if you're getting above 1.1, it's a pretty good performance. 1.04, nothing to sneeze at, but still, it's not. They're both just like above average performances. If we see one more killer performance or just even like decently above average performance, he's probably going in the top 5. But for now, I'm gonna have to keep him out for just a little bit. Hyper is gonna remain in here. Same sort of thing as Rexon, where they are all above 1.0. He has one slightly worse performance in NAL Stage 1, but I mean, come on, look at these stats. Like 1.29 is phenomenal, and then 1.08 is pretty good. 1.112 is even better. 1.13 average, very good. Just, he's just been known as that dude for a very long time. Hyper staying in here. Lexing, I'm not positive on it. I think I'm gonna exclude him, even though his are a little bit higher, but I mean, look, missing out on Mexico Major probably was going to bring him down lower if he had gone. So I'm going to leave him out. Even though he's been very consistent, he's like virtually always going positive on rating for his team, but he sort of plays those roles, right? Like where sometimes he doesn't influence the game enough, despite getting kills. Like he might get the impactless frags, being the flank watch. He might get nothing done or just not die or maybe get a kill. And if you lose a round, it's not, your flank watch is fault. Like they're the one just if they do their job. Because if your push fails, I mean you just fail, right? But and then playing sort of lurker on defense and then maybe even a little bit on attack sometimes, but it sort of lends itself to getting kills and not dying, but also not always being the most impactful, although sometimes being very impactful. I think he's going to just miss out. He's got to be top 10. I mean, just looking at these stats, but I think he's going to miss out just a little bit for now. And the other two are going to be two of the space station players, Fultz and Bosco. Let's look at Fultz first, I suppose. Unfortunately, two lackluster performances at so SI 2021. I mean, SSG, you got to give a little bit of a break there. They were struggling because first Canadian decides he's going to retire, he's going to leave the team, so then they have to play NAL Stage 1, and this is a pretty impressive performance for losing your star-studded IGL. And then I think Fultz became the IGL, but anyways, at SI, yeah, they had to they played with Canadian again, but he was rusty. They weren't they weren't gelling because they just got back together because Luke couldn't play. But yeah, so Canadian retired, then they had to play with Luke for this, and then Canadian came back and they had to play with him for this, and there's probably a little bit of friction and whatnot. So I think he disregarded a little bit. And then the Mexico Major, I mean, yeah, just not a great performance from Fultz. Like that's definitely disappointing. But in NAL Stage 1 and Stage 2, phenomenal. I don't remember what his stat line for entry was here, but I think it was like for entry it was like plus. It was like leagues above everyone else. It was like plus 20, or maybe it was like him and Rampy together were plus 20. But I think I for some reason I want to say Rampy was plus 8 and he was like plus 20. Like it was insane. And again, I'm pretty sure my understanding is that he was the IGL for this stage. So yeah, very killer. I think just undebatably one of the best entry fraggers, just fraggers in general. One of the most mechanically gifted players in NAL. Just seems to be a great boon to his team. I'm gonna put him in there, and this is where he was before, the same thing. And now how I wanted it to be before. These are the same four from previously. It wasn't actually affected terribly too much by the miscalculation, but I'm gonna put Bosco here instead of Bolo now. 3 positive performances and just 1 negative performance, and this is him. This stage, he was, I mean, what was he playing? Hard? No, wouldn't have been hard. I'm not sure what he was playing this stage because Luke was on hard reach. Maybe he was just second hard reach. He was some sort of flex, something. But, slightly negative performance on a team that was having some difficulties in roster transitions. And then at SI, playing support still, above this positive rating, not bad. Very good performance in NAL Stage 2. He was, I believe, the second highest on his team after Hot and Cold because he's above, right? He's above Rampy and he's above, no, he's third highest. Fultz right here, yeah. And then Thinking Nate was lower even. And then Mexico Major. I think this was the best on his team at the event. Yeah, better than Hot and Cold. So yeah, and again, I got to remind you throughout all of this, he's playing like support or sort of flex sometimes, but more leaning towards support, and then flank watch for these two, I think. Probably these two. Yeah, so very, very impressive. Just one of the longest standing players in the game. He was there like day one, very early, if not just day one on Xbox, and I think he's an Xbox World Champion along with a few other. I don't actually remember who was on that team. It was like Skies, maybe England. I don't remember. Bosco was on the squad anyways. So yeah, I'm gonna put him at number 5. He's got to be the best support, flex, flank, whatever role he's technically playing these days. But probably the best support player in NA at the moment, edging out Chala who is probably the second best. And then Anthony, some people, Anthony from Beast Coast, like to say he's really impressive. And, maybe he's just like taking advantage of things, being on a bad team, but getting his stats. I don't know. Well, let's see what happens next stage with that. So yeah, that's going to be the revised top 5. We got Hot and Cold, Grixer, Hyper, Fultz, and Bosco. And yeah, I don't think I want to say anything else about it. Like the rest of these players have potential. Like they're all, like everyone here is probably at least top 20, if not top 15. And then, the higher ones up here are like the rest of the top 10 kind of thing. So yeah, signing off.